Move your car. Lauren's horn blasted again from the driveway before Maya Bennett even reached the front door. I'm coming, Maya called, keys already in her hand. Her father, Richard, pushed past her and stormed outside as if something far worse had happened. Lauren lowered her window. I'm going to be late. She parked behind me again. Maya stepped onto the driveway. I have the keys. Give me 30 seconds. That should have ended it. Instead, Richard turned toward her. Why does everyone in this house constantly have to work around you? Maya noticed Mr. Alvarez across the street, collecting his mail. Another neighbor was washing his car 2 houses down. Dad, I'm moving it. She tried to walk past him. Richard grabbed the back of her hair. Maya's keys slipped against her palm as he jerked her backward. Dad, let go. Lauren climbed out of her car, but stayed beside the door. Richard dragged Maya several feet across the driveway toward the trash cans. Richard, her mother Diane called from the porch. For half a second, Maya thought her mother was going to stop him. She didn't. Richard shoved Maya hard enough that she crashed into the plastic bins. One tipped sideways, its lid slamming onto the concrete. He pointed down at her. Useless things belong in the dump. Lauren made a small, uncomfortable laugh. Richard looked toward the neighbors, as though he had just delivered a punchline. She has no future anyway. Maya's face burned hotter than the scrape on her arm. She looked toward Diane. Her mother's expression tightened. Maya, Diane said quietly, don't make this worse. Maya stared at her. Not him. Sir. Richard tossed his hand toward Maya's car. Get up and move it. No apology, no concern, just another order. Maya pushed herself upright, brushed dirt from her pants, picked up her keys and walked toward the car. Richard folded his arms. Lauren climbed back behind the wheel. To all of them, Maya's silence looked familiar. It looked like surrender. She started the engine, pulled forward, and cleared Lauren's path. But as Maya stepped back out of her car, her eyes moved across the street. Mr. Alvarez's house. Beside his front door was a small black doorbell camera, angled directly toward the Bennett driveway. Maya looked at it for barely a second. Then she went inside. That evening, after the house became quiet, Maya sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She clicked on a folder with no dramatic title, no names, no explanation. Only dates. Inside were more entries than anyone in her family knew existed. Maya created a new document. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she typed. August 12, driveway. She saved it, closed the laptop, and sat in the darkness. Richard thought the humiliation had ended when she moved her car. What he didn't know was that Maya hadn't started keeping records that afternoon. She had started months ago. Diane came into Maya's bedroom 20 minutes later without knocking. You need to understand something about your father, she said, closing the door behind her. He lost his temper because you embarrassed him in front of the neighbors. Maya looked up from the edge of her bed. Why are you talking about his embarrassment instead of what he did? Diane's mouth opened, then closed. For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of Maya's laptop. Finally, Diane lowered her voice. I'm saying this because once outsiders get involved, things become bigger than they need to be. Your father has a job. People around here know him. Maya glanced at the folder, still open on her screen. So I'm supposed to protect his reputation. You live here, Maya. Your father has done everything for this family. You pay almost nothing compared to what it costs to run this house. Maya's eyes moved back to her mother. How much do you think Dad actually pays every month? Diane frowned. What kind of question is that? A simple one. I'm not doing this with you. Diane walked out. Maya waited until the hallway went silent, then turned back to the screen. The dated folder contained screenshots of Richard's messages, photos of belongings he had damaged during arguments, short notes written immediately after confrontations, and bank transfers labeled ***, utilities ***, insurance ***, groceries ***, and mortgage contribution ***. She was scrolling through them when Lauren pushed the door open. "Dad went too far," Lauren said. Maya said nothing. Lauren crossed her arms. "But you also know you shouldn't have blocked me in." Maya slowly looked up. "You were going to meet friends." "That's not the point." "No," Maya said. "Apparently it never is." Lauren rolled her eyes, then glanced toward the closet. 2 cardboard boxes were tucked behind a row of hanging clothes. "What are those?" Maya stood and slid the closet door shut. Lauren stared at her. "Where are you going?" Maya rested her hand on the handle. "Somewhere Dad can't tell me what I owe him." Lauren's face changed. "Maya, what does that mean?" Maya didn't answer. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, she lifted one of the boxes from the closet, carried it through the silent house, and placed it carefully in the trunk of her car. By 8 the next morning, Richard had already begun telling his version of the driveway incident. Maya heard his voice through her bedroom window. "She started getting disrespectful," Richard told one of the neighbors. "I moved her out of the way, that's all." He laughed. "You know, Maya, everything becomes drama with her. 24 years old and still has no direction." Maya stood behind the curtain for a moment. Yesterday, he had humiliated her in public. Today, he was making sure everyone knew which version of her they were supposed to believe. She picked up her keys and walked outside. Richard noticed her immediately. His smile disappeared. Maya didn't approach him. Instead, Mr. Alvarez stepped away from his mailbox and crossed toward her. "Maya." "Morning." He lowered his voice. "Are you okay?" The answer came automatically. "I'm fine." Mr. Alvarez glanced toward Richard. Then he looked back at her. "My camera saw what happened." Maya went still. "The doorbell camera." He nodded. "It faces this direction. It caught the driveway." Across the lawn, Richard was watching them. Mr. Alvarez continued quietly. "Those systems overwrite older recordings eventually. If you want, I can save the file." Maya looked toward the small camera beside his front door. Yesterday, she had noticed it. Now she knew. "Please save the original," she said, "with the timestamp." Mr. Alvarez nodded. "I will." "Maya." Richard was already walking toward them. "What is he talking to you about?" Maya slipped her keys into her hand. "Nothing you need to worry about." Richard stopped. "What did you say?" Maya walked toward her car. His voice hardened. "You don't walk away when I'm speaking to you." She kept moving. "Maya, my house, my rules." For the first time, she didn't turn around. She opened her trunk. Richard followed and froze. "Boxes." "Not one." "Several." Diane appeared on the porch. Lauren came out behind her. Richard stared into the trunk, then at Maya. "What is this?" Maya closed the trunk. "Answer me. Where exactly do you think you're going?" She opened the driver's door. Richard stepped closer, waiting for the daughter who normally explained herself until he approved. Maya finally looked directly at him. "You keep reminding me whose house it is," she said, "so I decided to believe you." 3 days later, Maya was standing inside an apartment Richard didn't know she had already secured. The boxes from her trunk sat against the living room wall. The place was modest, but the lease was hers. This hadn't been a decision made after the driveway. She had been preparing to leave for months. Maya changed her mailing address, separated the last shared accounts, then opened each household service she had been voluntarily helping cover. She removed her payment information. One by one. 4 days later, Deanne called. "Maya, the insurance payment didn't go through." "I know. And there are other bills coming due." "Then Dad needs to pay them." Richard grabbed the phone. "So this is your revenge. You're trying to punish us financially. Maya leaned against her kitchen counter. Paying my own expenses isn't punishment. You lived under my roof. And I contributed while I lived there. Richard went silent. Maya ended the call. That afternoon, an email arrived from Mr. Alvarez. The original driveway footage was attached. Maya watched it once. There she was walking outside with her keys already in her hand. There was no threat, no attack on Richard, no screaming from Maya before he touched her. The recording showed Richard grabbing her hair, dragging her backward, and knocking her into the trash cans. His voice was unmistakable. Useless things belong in the dump. Then, she has no future anyway. Maya closed the video. She saved the original file beside the screenshots, photographs, dated notes, and financial records she had already collected. Then she made the decision her family had spent months assuming she would never make. She contacted the appropriate authorities and legal support, gave an accurate statement, and provided the footage instead of confronting Richard herself. Richard soon learned the recording existed. Diane called repeatedly. When Maya finally answered, her mother sounded frantic. Do you understand what this could do to the family? Maya looked around her quiet apartment. Why does protecting this family always mean protecting Dad? Maya, please. A notification appeared on her screen. Her statement and supporting evidence had been formally received. Before Diane could continue, another call appeared. Dad. Maya stared at his name. For most of her life, Richard's calls had meant instructions, demands, or warnings. This time, when Maya answered, his voice was different. Maya, he said quickly, please don't do this. Maya, please, don't do this. Richard's voice sounded nothing like it had in the driveway. Maya sat at her kitchen table and said nothing. I shouldn't have lost my temper, he continued. Fine, I admit that, but taking this outside the family, do you understand what this could do to my reputation? Maya looked at the dated folder open on her laptop. Months earlier, Richard had smashed one of her belongings during an argument. Later, when Maya confronted him, he denied it had happened the way she remembered. That was when she stopped trusting family memory. She began saving threatening messages, photographing damaged belongings, writing down confrontations while they were still fresh, organizing bank records, and quietly preparing to leave. The apartment hadn't appeared after the driveway incident. Maya had already been approved for it. She had built an emergency fund and planned a clean departure because Richard's behavior had been escalating. The driveway simply ended any doubt about whether she should go. Maya, Richard said. She returned to the call. You haven't asked if I'm okay. Silence. Then Richard's voice hardened. Don't turn this around on me. That answered everything. Maya gave an accurate statement and refused every request to minimize what the video showed. Mr. Alvarez's recording gave independent evidence of the incident. Richard's attempt to tell the neighbors that Maya had become disrespectful collapsed against footage showing her walking outside with her keys before he grabbed her. Maya never posted the video online. She didn't need revenge. She needed the truth preserved. Richard now had to face the legal process created by his own actions. Diane tried one more approach. Come home, she told Maya over the phone. We can sit down privately and fix this. No. Maya. I spent years fixing things privately. Nothing changed. The financial reality inside the Bennett home was changing too. Without Maya's automatic payments, Diane finally saw how much her daughter had actually contributed. Utilities, groceries, insurance expenses, and a regular household contribution. Richard had publicly described Maya as dependent while quietly benefiting from her money. Now the bills belonged entirely to Richard and Diane. They cut expenses. Maya transferred nothing back. Lauren contacted her separately several weeks later. I need to say something, she said. Maya waited. I laughed that day. Yes. I didn't think it was funny. I just didn't want Dad turning on me. Maya's expression remained still. That doesn't make what I did okay, Lauren added. It was cowardly, I'm sorry. I appreciate you saying that. Are we okay? Maya looked out the window. Not yet. Lauren swallowed. Okay. It wasn't forgiveness disguised as a happy ending. If their relationship was going to recover, Lauren would have to rebuild it slowly. Months passed. Maya remained in her apartment. She had her job, her savings, and complete control of her finances. Contact with Richard became limited and happened only on terms Maya accepted. Diane learned that seeing her daughter required respecting boundaries instead of carrying Richard's demands between them. Richard had lost the four things that once made his intimidation effective: control over Maya's housing, access to her money, the protection of secrecy, and confidence in her silence. The daughter, he said, had no future, had been quietly preparing for one all along. Maya kept the dated folder on her laptop. Not because she was waiting for another fight. Because it reminded her why she had finally stopped doubting what she saw with her own eyes. One evening, Maya returned from work and pulled into the small parking space outside her apartment. She turned off the engine. No horn sounded behind her. Nobody came outside, demanding an explanation. Nobody told her where she was allowed to park or used a roof over her head as permission to humiliate her. Maya picked up her bag, locked her car, and walked toward a home where the key in her hand belonged to her. Richard threw Maya into the trash because he thought she was the useless thing in his driveway. But the moment she walked away, he discovered she was the one thing in that house he could never replace. The daughter who had been quietly holding everything together.